Hello there, Rasa here. So today I would like to talk about some tips that I have on dealing with depression and anxiety, and also some reflections that I've sort of pondered throughout my experience with it. Okay, just one more important thing before we go that I forgot to mention is if you do have depression, um, please first accept it. Accept it yourself, like acknowledge that you have it, say it to yourself, and then say it to other people. Say it to friends, say it to your family members, because when I was feeling really, really isolated and alienated and like in this condom, plastic bag, whatever, the one thing that at that moment would cut it would be saying to the person that I'm with and I'm feeling so far away from them. And if it's a close friend, um, just say that, sorry, I don't feel, I think I have depression and, I've been feeling really depressed and yeah, I just sometimes I can't even hold like a normal conversation about everyday things. And this one thing is really important. It's like to accept your depression, accept the fact that you are feeling this way, and also tell it to your friends and family. So let's get started. Just have some notes here. All right. So first thing, I suppose, if you can, and you really feel like you are depressed, then of course you should seek help. I would advise to go to therapy because it really helps. I've been going to, as I've mentioned in my previous video. Here we have free healthcare, so it's kind of easy for me to just like go to a therapist, and yeah, so that actually really helped. I believe what you just need to do is you just need to go to your GP or your family doctor, and they would sort of then advise you to go to see a psychiatrist, and then hopefully from there you can go to a psychologist. Um, yeah, from I don't know. For me, I don't take medication, so uh, and I kind of think that perhaps if your depression is not too severe, then like therapy is the best way really. And because medication would just like numb the symptoms, it's not really gonna change anything, because depression is really a state of mind. And if you want to have like a healthy life, it's your state of mind that you would perhaps need to change. So therapy is really good for that, because you get to reflect on a lot of things, and you get to. I know it's not easy, and it really depends on the therapist, and sometimes like people can have horrible experience with it. So uh, yeah, so that's perhaps the downside. But if you have like an option to choose from several, and I don't know, maybe just like walk in like one appointment, and then if you don't like the person, then you can just like go to another hospital or something like that. Um, and but it's not really about the therapist though. It's more about yourself really, because uh, I mean, as long as there's someone who's listening and reflecting, you can see in that person and in the questions they give you, like yourself, and they just give you an outsider's perspective, and they're like not related to you. They're not your friend. Friends can be good therapy sometimes, but they don't want to hurt you. They can be too politically correct, and the therapist just really gets it straight on, and it's like no one from your social circle. So that's why it's I think it's better just like an outsider's perspective on like some things that you may think are really dramatic, but they're not really that dramatic. For example, or yeah, and you will just like see deeper reasons for your depression. For example, in my case, most of them come from my childhood, and I think a lot of people's problems come from childhood. Sorry, Freud. I mean, thank you, Freud. Yeah, so going to a therapist really um, it can give you a lot of depth to your depression because all right. So how I came to look at my I don't know, illness, condition, whatever, is I came to look at depression as my friend. Hey, bitch. Because what it essentially does, it shows you that something is wrong and something is not right. So depression is like pain, and it signals, it gives you alarm that perhaps something is wrong with you. And it's like grieving, when something happens and you're grieving, it's normal. Like, for example, your loved one passes away, you do feel depressed afterwards, but it's normal because it has like a substantial reason and it's part of the healing process to grieve. Depression is also like grieving, but it's like grieving for something, some wound that has not been cured, and it's like contaminated or something. It's been there for too long, you might have like some skin on it, but it's still there, the wound is still there, and because you've been ignoring it, it's been like it's been progressing, and you're not aware of it. Depression doesn't happen from like everyday events. It's usually something deeper, and so depression it shows that there's something deep inside of you that you have to work with, and you have to find that reason, and from there you can move on to like healing it completely, But in the meantime, you still have to live with depression. So, um, so I have like some tips that help you along the way while you are trying to figure out like the bigger picture and like the actual reason why you're feeling depression. Okay? So, therapy is my, go-to advice. After that, and perhaps like on the same importance, actually, I would say meditation. Yeah. Um, yeah. Well, meditation is, I mean, of course, so many people have talked about it, I guess. But I've been doing it actively for about 2 months, like every day. And I've really, really noticed a difference. I mean, it's crazy, but yeah, it really helps. And for meditation, you don't really need anything. For example, you can't go to a therapist for some reasons. So meditation is also healing. It's like very deep healing. How I like to do it is I just try to do it in the morning and in the evening, like waking up and then before going to bed. But you can start with maybe 3 minutes whenever you like. It's just so simple, really. It's just so basic. Just sit down somewhere where it's quiet, where you are at peace, Even if you're not at peace, just like sit down somewhere. And music really helps for me. You can just like Google some meditation music, or maybe for a better effect is some monks chanting. And of course you don't have to be religious or spiritual or anything like that, but just from my experience, something with monks or like some people who living like spiritual lives, and hearing their voices, it's a bit stronger in that sense. But so essentially just sit down, like get some music on, and just for a couple of minutes just try to breathe and not think about anything. And that is so hard when you're on depression. Your mind is one. You don't want to be left alone with your mind and your thoughts because they're driving you nuts, right? But trust me, You can't run away from them forever. So it's better to like face them straight on. And believe me, you can do it. Yeah. So just try to breathe and then try to count, you know? As you exhale, try to count to 10. And whenever you feel a thought coming, just like acknowledge the thought. Don't fight it because it's impossible, but just let it slide. Maybe visualize it as something. And what I've noticed with meditation is that not only does it help in the meantime that you are doing it, because seriously, it relaxes you. It puts you in the state where whenever whatever you are feeling, when you meditate, you go, especially if you do it for a longer time, for example, up to a half an hour. But start with little, but eventually, if you want to, then you just go into the zone where you're just smiling for no reason. You don't need a reason to be happy when you are meditating. It puts you in the state of love, of this like pure love, where unconditional love. Just for me, it's just like this pure form, just pure stage of this, I don't know, accepting yourself and some sort of a love and joy that's deeper than anything else, because it doesn't need a logical reason to happen. So yeah, and after you've meditate frequently, you will start to notice that it's sort of bleeds into your daily life as well. So if something bad happens or like just some random shit happens, you can you have this power. Meditation gives you this power to like not attach yourself to your thoughts too much. So if you're like pissed off at something, you might feel pissed off, or you can just like separate yourself from the person or the thing that's like annoying you, and it gives you some boundaries, it gives you some mental space, you know. Um, so yeah, that's what I've noticed in my daily life, that I can actually like not be as reactive to everything that happens to me, because you can't really control everything that happens to you, right? You can control your reaction though. So meditation gives you the power of controlling reaction, and that I think is like super useful. Yes. So meditation therapy, the most important things. But furthermore, how you can sort of help yourself more along the way is you have to like express those feelings, express that depression, and if you don't have anyone to express it to, uh, you also have to learn to deal with it yourself in a way. So therefore, writing really helps. I've been doing this thing that has been called a 5-minute journal. Yeah, I will link it below, and it's. I also watched it on YouTube about when I was feeling really shit, and from that video actually I've started meditating and writing this journal thing, and it's by I think Mimi Ikonn, like some YouTubers, some business people, but yeah, actually they're quite cool because they have like all these materials free online, so you don't like have to buy it or anything. You can just like look at the system and just, I don't know, um, just do it yourself. So it's essentially like writing good things that happened today and writing like small things that will make you happy today, because you like do it in the morning and the evening. And yeah, it's a really nice thing. So yeah, I advise you to try to do that. Also, writing a journal is quite good, or a blog, because I mean, you can just stay anonymous on the blog, and you can even like create nicknames for people. If you're really paranoid, they will find out. And yeah, you can, because with a journal, um, it's also good, but it can feel indefinite. And with the blog, you know, you just post it and that's it. But that's just my personal take. So yeah, you can do either. Just write, just get it out somehow. Another good way is like creating. because creation is essentially expressing yourself. And I don't know, at least my depression does come from like this sort of a lack of self-expression, this like construction on myself. So creating, it really helps. And the most actually the most like straight way is of like expressing is like for me it's like talking about it. And again, so through my voice, through saying things. And if you don't feel comfortable with, have people to with, talk with yourself, damn it, talk with the computer, film yourself or something like that, record yourself. Just prove to yourself that you are there and that your voice matters. And if you need an external source for that, then use it, because you can. And that's what I'm doing right now, and it fucking helps. But of course, eventually, it's also really good to have like some other people to talk with apart from your perhaps therapist or your computer. So building a social network is important, but leave this step perhaps for when you are feeling more comfortable with yourself, because when you have anxiety and depression, it can be really stressful to deal with people. So if you are feeling a bit better, it's good. It's really as good and important to build like social connections, because in the end, it's the group is what like supports us usually. Very few people can really be, self-sufficient loners. Most of us need support from others, and yeah, so therefore it's like try to build a social network with people. Um, Yeah, and there's like various ways you can do that. I don't know, perhaps it even needs a separate video. I'm not an expert on it by no means, but one thing you can do though is when you're feeling real shit, the one thing that actually really helps is like helping others. Yeah, so find people who are feeling even more shit than you and lend them a hand. But one important thing to remember though is that for some people, they look, for people that are feeling worse than them and help them and then live with their problems and then try to solve it and then feel unsatisfied because they didn't solve it. I'm one of those people sometimes. So help them, but like within boundaries, like if they're not like your real, if you're just like pitying them, perhaps they can't be your friends out of pity. It's good to help. It's good to lend out a hand. For example, oh, okay, let's go for lunch with this person who's like even more depressed than you, or something like that. Or maybe perhaps volunteering. Volunteering is even better, because then you don't have like such a personal connection, but with the people you are helping, because you're like working but helping for free, it still feels good. And also, if you join like a volunteer center or something like that, you see a lot of good, kind people that are like-minded, they're empathic, and with those people you can sort of build some connections as well, and also like just help like some dogs, like animals, like some animal shelter, or some people in old people home or something like that. So yeah, so that's another tip is like feel strong through feeling sensitive and weak, through, because essentially if you have like some shit that you're dealing with and you still manage to like help other people while you're dealing with your own shit, I mean, it gives you like a wider perspective, and that is real strength though, because you you know, you have perspective, you have a wider perspective in the end, and it's actually like much more valuable than you would just be like a normal happy person. And nothing wrong with that, of course, but yeah, but like this weakness and this sensitivity is a strength though, because you can be way more empathic than people who have never had depression. So yeah, so when you have this wider perspective, you can feel more empathy, whereas people who probably never experienced something similar will not have as much empathy as you. So from your weakness, you can draw, you can draw your biggest strength, really. Okay, another factor I'd like to talk about is alcohol and caffeine. So I'm coming from a country that where being alcoholic is the cultural norm, and if you like go out somewhere, essentially you probably some social outing, you would like probably go out drinking in the evening to a bar or an abandoned building, or somewhere. So yeah, so it's quite difficult to like, oh no, don't drink, and especially if you're feeling maybe a bit uncomfortable, and then you just want to, feel better with like feel feel like stronger, like drinking something strong. Well, alcohol, what it does, it essentially emphasizes what you're already feeling. So if you're feeling, so drink when you are happy, because if you drink when you're happy, then yeah, more happy. If you drink when you're sad, you might feel a bit like more confident at the moment, or like just dizzier and like not giving a fuck. Afterwards, you might feel worse, And so, what's the point in that if drinking like makes you more depressed, and when you're already in a sensitive situation, it's better to like keep your balance and keep the harmony, and not like overdo these things. I'm not saying like, oh, quit drinking completely, never touch another glass of that wine again, but just be aware what it might do to you, and perhaps it's good to like limit it for some time at least, until you're feeling better with yourself. And the same goes for caffeine, because caffeine, when you're a happy normal person, then and then you drink coffee, perked up, drink. But when you're like really depressed, you're like, brr, and then and then brr again. So like this like jumping, this contrast of the states, it can really mess you up. It's like this, caffeine drop. It can also like make you feel more anxious and more depressed. So I am, a coffee drinker myself. I love the motivation and that spark of I can do everything that it gives me. So I try to do it, like drink a bit of coffee and then like do something that I would still eventually that I love, like writing or drawing and creating something that gives me satisfaction more than just like this theoretical coffee thing. So afterwards, I'm feeling the coffee crash, I can like look back and feel proud about something I've did or something like that. But still, it's good like to take some days off when you're not drinking coffee. Maybe it's hard for some of you. I know it can be hard for me. But just like divide your attention, focus your attention on somewhere else, and try to gather your happiness not from like coffee or food or alcohol, but like something that you do more than stuff like that. So yeah, like some action, some attractions, some like keeping yourself busy is really a good thing. It's like when you're already feeling a bit better, it's good to like pick up a hobby, as I was talking before, and like try to draw your joy and your happiness from the things that you do instead of the things you might like put into yourself. Right. So probably the last tip would be when you're already feeling a bit better, you're talking, you're writing, you're feeling perhaps not as depressed. You might have more energy. So that's a good way to start like some physical activity, because it really really gets you out of your head and into the world. You're feeling more part of the world when you're like active physically. For example, I bike to places because now it's summer and we have a lot of bike roads, and I don't have a driver's license, so I don't want to go over by public transport because it's really depressing in the public transport. So like biking to places gives me like this sense of control and like groundedness, and like people are getting out of my way. I feel authority because I'm wheeled. And and stuff like that. And you're like usually biking in nature, and so like going into the nature would it be jogging or something like that, like just some yoga. In the nature, it's like it gives you this background. It's really not stressful, because in our everyday life we're like just like so we have to actively focus on this, on that, on anything. And nature is just like this passive focus when you don't have to be like your racing mind and have to be so anxious about everything. It's just like this natural piece of peace. Yeah, this natural being in nature. That's how we were programmed to be, and that's yeah. So it really suits you. It might get boring, but it suits you, and it's what you need when you have like depression and anxiety, like just this sort of calmness and peace. It does wonders, believe me. All right, so that will be enough for now. I have filmed this too many times because my camera has been fucking up. But yeah, essentially what I want to say is really seeking help is so important. It's true, so you should do that. But also remember that only you can fix yourself, and it's really important to fix yourself, because you are important. Yes, you are. I know when you feel depressed, you don't feel like anything. You feel like a big nothing. But no, we are all we all have importance in this earth, because if there are more happy people, eventually we will all be happier. So you don't want to be happy for yourself, be happy for someone else. Like strive for yourself. In that sense, I don't know if that motivates you, but essentially what I want to say is that you have the power. Um, you have the power in yourself to change yourself, and you have the power to fix yourself. Believe me, I'm not a motivational speaker person, whatever. But through trial and error, through my own experience of good and bad, and life is this thing where you don't have a fucking manual, you have to like learn drive while you're already driving. Uh, so it's normal to make mistakes. It's normal. Accept your mistakes as part of yourself. Eventually they will lead you somewhere as well. I know it's such a cliche, but it's actually true. And about these tips as well, or any tips, any sort of help that you're looking, you can only like do them and see if they work for you. And I don't know, like if it doesn't, then it's a trial and error. Listening to YouTubes and videos do help, for a sense, but if you want substantial change, you have to actually do at least like a little things. And through that process, you will learn and you will discover, you don't know everything, right? No one does know everything unless they're crazy. Uh, so yeah, like life is a learning experience, and just enjoy this opportunity that you have. And yeah, and you have the power. You have the power. The power is in you. The force is in you. Use it. Make yourself happy, and make the world happy. Make it a better place. Okay. Thank you.
Without you, I feel like breathless blossoming flower. Without you.